Well, I was born in Kingaroy in Queensland. I was born in 1946. I went to school in Kingaroy and then I moved from Kingaroy to a place called Mitchell. And we all lived in a little tin shack. Yeah, we were quite comfortable in that. I'm not part of the stolen generation. My grandparents lived at Cherbourg Mission, which is a big mission in Kingaroy, came out of the mission. So I commenced working when I was 14. I was a ringbarker. In those days it was classed as a land clearer. We were sitting down having smoko one afternoon and back in those days they had magazines called Post and Pix, and I saw a little advertisement in the paper, join the army, so I pulled it out and took it home and I filled it out and I gave it to my boss and told him to post it, and he did, yeah. I tried to join the army when I was 19 and my mum wouldn't sign the papers, and she said, you're going to have to wait until you turn 21. And I said, well, fine. Yeah. But the reason that I wanted to join the army was to get away from the lifestyle that I was in and find out what it was all about, particularly Vietnam. I did 3 months at Kapooka and 3 months at Ingleburn, and then I went to Malaya, and then we came back from Malaya in April '69, and we went to Vietnam in November '69. So the training was pretty intense. My job was a forward scout in the infantry section, and the forward scout in the section is the person that goes out the front and will either be the first one shot or whatever. But I would have been the forward scout anyway because I loved that. I loved the bush. I knew a lot of things, how to track people or track animals and that. So yeah, I was quite happy to be a forward scout. Well, the infantry soldiers were the ones that went looking for the enemy to kill the enemy, and that was our job. We were trained to do that. War's not a pleasant thing, but for me it was another job, and I guess for a lot of blokes, a lot of the regular army blokes, it was another job. You know, my three uncles served in the Second World War, and I wanted to find out for myself. So I guess I'd choose the most dangerous job. I was always sort of adventurous. Once we got on the trucks, someone yelled out, all right, put one up the spout. And that means you cock your rifle and put her around up the barrel. And you don't really realise what's going on until someone says that to you. And then you understand that, gee, I could get killed here. And you start to shake and you start to shiver, and I'll never forget the feeling. I just wanted to go home. I guess like a lot of other blokes. The conditions were atrocious. I guess I was lucky in a way because I was a bushie. It didn't bother me. There were good times and bad times, and I'll tell you about the good times. The good times were when we would come out of the jungle, go and have a hot shower, put on clean clothes, and have a beer. Oh, that was the good times. They were really good times. You know? The bad times were when someone got wounded and you had to medevac them out. And, they were the real bad times. And you felt down in the dumps. You felt alone, and they were real bad times. And you'd hear about other companies having a contact, and they'd lose a couple of blokes. They were the bad times. For me, I had a lot of counselling. I didn't know what counselling was. Like, it doesn't cure you, but it settles your mind, eases your pain. And I've had a lot of counselling, and I'll continue to have counselling, like most of the blokes, you know. I think we left on the 9th of November 1970. Once we got on the HMAS Sydney to come back, yeah, it was a fantastic feeling. got off the boat, marched in Brisbane, and there was a lot of angry people there. They threw things at us. Some people even spat on us, and it affected a lot of blokes. It didn't have any effect on me, and it didn't matter whether you were an Indigenous veteran. It was all veterans. When my uncles were, in the Second World War, they experienced a lot of discrimination, and after they'd come back from the war, they weren't allowed to march, they weren't allowed to wear their medals. But the other thing was, the First World War and the Second World War veterans, they never helped either. They shunned us too, and that was a bad thing. Some of the old blokes said, it wasn't a real war. This is the attitude of a lot of them. It wasn't a real war. You had it easier than we did, and all this sort of thing. And it was hard to get a job. It was really hard for a Vietnam veteran, not just an Indigenous Vietnam veteran, but any Vietnam veteran, to get a job. And in some cases it was because I was Aboriginal that I wouldn't get the job. But if I mentioned that I was a Vietnam veteran, in some ways that was just as bad, I guess that's what happens, and when those sort of things happen, you just shrug your shoulders and say, well, get on with it. Nothing you can do about it. And by the way, I've been back to Vietnam. I always wanted to go back. Like, it's not a thing that most of the blokes want to do. They don't want to go back. But I went back, had a look at the place, and I can tell you, before I went back to Vietnam, I used to have nightmares. I never used to get very good sleep. And when I went back there and I came back home, I just slept like a baby. It was like a closure, it was.